Was I wrong for secretly replacing my boss's favorite luxury, brand coffee grounds, with a mix of decaf and actual dirt for a whole month? Because honestly, at that point, I wasn't even sure if I'd lost my mind or finally found the only way to stay sane in a job that had been draining the life out of me. I can still see the look on his face that day, confused, frustrated, and slowly unraveling as his daily ritual started betraying him sip by sip. And maybe that's why I don't regret it one bit. But before you decide if I went too far, let me tell you exactly how I got to that point. So, I worked, at a marketing firm that prided itself on being innovative, which was basically code for, we overwork you, underpay you, and expect gratitude for it. My boss, Martin, was one of those guys who thought charisma and cruelty were the same thing. He strutted around the office in his tailored suits, barking orders like a general leading a war against deadlines. He wasn't just arrogant. He was the kind of person who'd make you feel small just for existing. He would smile to your face, but the second you turned your back, you could practically hear him sharpening his next insult. The one thing Martin seemed to truly love more than his own reflection was his coffee. And not just any coffee. This man was obsessed with a 90 bag of imported single origin beans from some remote mountain in South America. He kept the bag locked in his office cabinet, like it was a treasure chest. He'd grind the beans himself every morning, using this fancy brass hand grinder, the kind that looked like it belonged in a museum. It was his ritual, his symbol of superiority. A man's coffee defines him, he once told us. I remember laughing awkwardly, pretending that made sense. But here's the thing, that coffee became part of his power play. Every morning, before the rest of us could even clock in properly, he'd make himself a steaming cup and stroll around the office just to let everyone smell it. He'd walk past our desks, take long dramatic sips, and make comments like, "You can't beat quality, can you?" Or, "Real coffee for real performers." Meanwhile, the rest of us were drinking whatever cheap instant junk was in the communal kitchen. It wasn't just coffee. It was his way of reminding us who ran the place. Now, I used to be the one in charge of ordering supplies, which included coffee. One day, he called me into his office because he'd found out I accidentally ordered a different blend for the communal area. I admitted my mistake, expecting a normal human response, maybe a mild scolding. But no, Martin tore into me like I'd just crashed the company car. He actually called me incompetent in front of 2 other managers over coffee. Then he said something that stuck with me. Some people just aren't cut out for excellence. That sentence didn't just sting. It lodged itself somewhere deep inside me. For the next few days, I couldn't think about anything else. Distance. I started replaying all the little humiliations he'd put me through, making me stay late for work he'd take credit for, mocking my accent during meetings, calling me rookie, even after 2 years on the job. Every single memory built up until something in me snapped, and when I saw him the next morning, proudly grinding those stupid luxury beans again, I had a thought. What if his silence came with a side of karma? The idea started as a joke. I told one of my coworkers, Jen, about it. How I wanted to switch his fancy coffee with decaf just to mess with him a bit. She laughed so hard she nearly spit out her drink. Distance. But then she said, honestly, he'd deserve it. That was all the encouragement I needed. A harmless prank, I told myself. Just enough to take him down a notch. So I started planning. I knew he stored his coffee in a sealed glass jar in his cabinet. He'd refill it from his luxury bag once a week, every Friday evening before he left. That gave me my window. The next Friday, after everyone left, I stayed back under the pretense of finishing a report. Once the office was quiet, I slipped into his office. My heart was pounding like crazy. I wasn't used to breaking any rules, let alone invading my boss's sacred coffee shrine. I opened the cabinet and there it was, the expensive bag half full, sitting next to the glass jar. The smell was rich and intoxicating, even to someone who didn't care about coffee like that. I carefully emptied about half of the bag into a separate container I'd brought. Then I replaced it with a mix of cheap decaf grounds I'd bought from the grocery store that morning. I resealed the bag, shook it to blend, and left it right where I found it. The next Monday morning, I watched him make his coffee like usual. He didn't notice a thing. He sipped, frowned slightly, then shrugged. I almost burst out laughing. The man who claimed he could taste quality in a single drop didn't even realize he was drinking decaf. That alone would have been enough. But as the week went on, I noticed something even better. He was losing it. By Wednesday, he started snapping at everyone. He complained of headaches, exhaustion, and even accused the cleaning crew of messing with his air quality. I overheard him telling someone on the phone that he was feeling off, like he couldn't focus. Every day, he seemed more irritable, more drained. The irony was delicious. But I wasn't done. The next week, I took it a step further. I mixed a little bit of fine dirt, clean, dry soil from my potted plant at home, into the decaf grounds. Not enough to be obvious, just enough to ruin the flavor subtly. By that point, I wasn't even doing it for revenge anymore. It became this quiet little rebellion, my secret therapy session before each workday. I'd sit at my desk, watching him grimace at his mug and think, "How's your excellence now, Martin?" Then things started getting really weird. He began blaming everyone for his coffee tasting off. First, he accused the janitor of tampering with his office. Then he fired an intern who'd accidentally borrowed his mug one morning. He even had maintenance check the water supply for contamination. Every theory except the truth. It was glorious chaos, and for once it wasn't at my expense. Halfway through the month, the office morale was the highest it had ever been. Distance. It was like Martin's confusion had somehow loosened his grip on everyone. He wasn't barking orders anymore. He was too busy trying to figure out why his life was falling apart one cup at a time. He started skipping meetings, showing up late, even once asking me to handle a client pitch he'd forgotten to prepare for. That was the day I knew I'd won. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Should I keep going or stop before it went too far? Before I tell you what happened next, distance, I want you to pause for a second and comment below. If you were in my shoes, would you have stopped after the decaf switch? Or would you have kept going until the king of coffee finally crumbled? Alright, so back to the chaos. By week 4, Martin looked like a different person. His eyes had dark circles, his hair was messy, and he started wearing the same suit multiple days in a row. He'd drink his coffee and stare into space like a man questioning every decision he'd ever made. The final straw came one Thursday morning. I walked into the office and found him sitting at his desk, staring at the coffee grinder like it had personally betrayed him. When I asked if he was okay, he just muttered, "It doesn't taste the same anymore. Nothing does." That night, I went back into his office for what I decided would be the last time. I was going to stop. The prank had done its job. He'd been humbled, at least for now. But as I opened the cabinet, I saw something new. A fresh bag of his luxury coffee, still sealed, sitting next to the half-used one. I guess he'd ordered more, desperate to fix whatever was wrong. I don't know what came over me, but I couldn't resist. I swapped it too. My final act of rebellion. The next morning, everything changed. Martin called an emergency meeting. Everyone shuffled into the conference room, confused. He stood there, pale and quiet, and then he announced he was taking a leave of absence. "I need to reassess my priorities," he said, voice trembling. Apparently, his doctor told him his stress levels were dangerously high, and he'd been having caffeine withdrawal symptoms, without realizing it. I nearly bit my tongue to stop myself from laughing. He left that afternoon, just like that. The man who ruled the office through intimidation and arrogance was gone. Distance. The company replaced him temporarily with a kind, chill woman from another branch, and the whole place transformed overnight. People were smiling again. No one was afraid to take a lunch break. The atmosphere was light, hopeful, like the weight had been lifted. As for me, I quietly threw away the remaining coffee mix in the trash and deleted the photos I'd taken during my little operation. I didn't need them anymore. The victory wasn't in the evidence. It was in watching the empire of one man's ego crumble from something as simple as bad coffee. A month later, I found out Martin had officially resigned. He'd moved to another city, started consulting work, and, get this, opened a tea business. I almost spit out my drink when I saw his LinkedIn update. Sometimes life teaches you to slow down and appreciate balance. Yeah, sure, Martin. Balance. With a pinch of soil and decaf, apparently. Do I feel bad? Maybe a little. It wasn't the most mature way to handle things, I'll admit that. But then again, sometimes karma just needs a little help brewing. I didn't destroy his career. I just gave him a reason to reflect. Literally. And weirdly enough, distance. That whole experience taught me something too. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud or destructive. Sometimes it's quiet, petty, even funny, but it can still make a point, distance. I eventually left the company too, on my own terms, for a new job where I actually get treated like a human being. And every morning, when I sip my modest cup of coffee, distance, I can't help but smile, not because it's expensive or exotic, but because it tastes like freedom. So what do you think? Was I wrong for what I did? Or was it poetic justice, brewed to perfection? Like this video if you were on my side, and don't forget to subscribe for more insane stories like this. And seriously, share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if your boss treated you the way Martin treated me? I'll see you all in the next story.